Last week I made a video on upcoming platformer top 1s, and since then, the first official preview for Dawn has officially been released on several channels of creators who are involved with the project. The more you look into it, the more this level seems to have some crazy lore. This is probably one of the most unique and ambitious projects I've ever seen done in Geometry Dash. It's so incredibly unique too in the sense that it's a platformer top 1 while also clearly having some themes that I have never seen before in a Geometry Dash level. Leagues and leagues ahead of the robot tight jump, I wanna be the guy copy and paste levels that we get in our current Extreme Demon scene for platformer. Trust me, there's some wild stuff in here. Everything from biblically accurate angels to, substances. I don't think YouTube wants me to name these. To a very prevalent theme of eyeballs for some reason, so today we're going to be diving into all of the secrets and Easter eggs I could find in Dawn parts, see where that could point to where this level is going. I've said some wild shit before on this channel. I think this is going to be one of those videos. But yeah, welcome to Game Theory. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like, subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. You'll see more content like this, and it supports me looking at showcases of Dawn parts at 0.25x speed instead of doing my fucking calculus homework. First off, I want to start with Nicrodox's part, which I believe is the first part in the level. And this level is chock full of references to a whole bunch of things, most of which are probably not related to any central theme or lore piece that this level might have going on. Right off the bat in the first few frames, this is very much an infomercial slash analog TV news station part. Towards the bottom it says, "I want to escape the infomercial," which is I think clearly a reference to I Want to Be the Guy. The list of recent callers are some of the creators in the project, and the credit card companies at the side are Chillcard, Kayuki Express, Minddry, and Tidal Wave Credit. At the bottom, there's supposedly a link that says www.iris.gov, which could have lore significance, but the link doesn't actually lead anywhere. Also, don't call this number, it's not part of the level or anything. Next, we move on to a newsroom sort of thing. It says G News as the news station, which I think is a reference to C1997's G News, which is kinda awesome. The news anchor isn't really named, but we also have the breaking news with a lot of different weird references. It can range anywhere from boxing news with It's Hybrid, to the One Piece is Real, to Dallas man spends life fortune on Valorant skins, and clairvoyant man denies existence of yellow animatronic bear. If there's any theming with this level, I highly doubt any of these have anything to do with it, but they're all really funny Easter eggs nonetheless. Oh yeah, and the news anchor does at one point say that demise is part of the forecast, so that's cool. In the description for the preview of this part, we learn a little bit more information about Dawn. Dawn is a top 1 platformer level by TM including over 50 unique rooms, each having their own unique gameplay gimmicks. The deco is based on vibes, or a feeling that each creator wants to portray in their rooms, and altogether the level is a journey through various themes and ideas. So it seems like the level's structuring is built around the idea that each part does its own thing, with some common thread tying it all together. And yeah, there are a few themes that are consistent throughout the level that are rather odd. If you watch compilations of a bunch of the parts in this level, you will very quickly notice that there is a common symbol within the level, which is also prevalent in the preview, which is this symbol. If I'm not mistaken, this is Iris's Geometry Dash symbol for some of his parts. The reason I say that is because this is the thing that flashes right before his part in Abyss of Darkness. I'm not entirely sure if this is being repurposed for the level, but he is involved with the project. This also brings me back to the www.iris.gov link that we saw, which could just be a reference to Iris being an important part of the project, or again, it could be something speaking to a broader theme. The only reason I mention all of this is that obviously the iris is part of an eye. It helps control the size of the pupil to let more or less light into the eye. For example, in the rare instance that some of the people watching this video goes outside, and it's suddenly very bright, eventually your eyes will adjust, which means your iris is helping adjust to the new level of light. And eyes are very, very prevalent throughout the level. There's several parts that just have eyeballs for some fucking reason. And of course there is Kolek's part, which we'll get to later. For example, in this part, there's like a moving eyeball within the part, like as part of the structure for the gameplay a couple times. And even in the funny haha 420 weed part of the level, the spikes in that part have an eye in the middle of them, so it looks like the Illuminati symbol. Which is interesting because all of these parts are in completely different styles. There are some parts that are pretty clearly just I Want to Be the Guy-esque parts of the level that some random people created, which look pretty decent, and then we also have literally an analog news station to begin the level, and of course Kolek's part, which seems to be the poster child for the level. level, specifically this thing right here. This shows up in the level in somewhat of an angelic context, considering that it appears out of like a halo of white light. There's very peaceful, calming music in the background before the screen starts to glitch out and whatnot, which is the case in both the showcase on Kolik's channel of his part, which, you know, he is the creator of this part, but also the case with, of course, the preview. On top of being somewhat cryptic, the design of this thing also pretty closely resembles a biblically accurate angel. For those who don't know, religious scripts like the Bible and the Torah didn't depict angels as, I don't know, like babies with wings or some shit. Long story short, it describes them as looking pretty wacky. And suddenly them starting every conversation with "be not afraid" makes a lot more sense. Specifically, this reminds me of the design for the seraphim, which I think is something to keep in mind in case this comes back and ties into themes in the level further on when we learn more about the level. What's really interesting to me is that this somewhat religious symbolism combined with the sort of analog feel to the first part kind of reminds me of the Mandela catalog. And I'm not sure if that was done on purpose, but regardless, it's at least something that I want to point out. Another common theme that I did want to mention that's sort of present throughout the level is drugs. There is, of course, this part which is pretty much just themed around weed for some reason, and there's even puffs of gray smoke following the player towards the second half of the part, which is hilarious. But there's also other parts that can be somewhat resemblant of a psychedelic trip, like this part, which is very, very wonky for like the entire part. This does not let up as an effect, it just keeps going. One of the things I've seen a lot of people describe this level as is it feels sort of like a fever dream throughout the entire level, despite the fact that most of the parts are pretty different from each other in terms of style. And this is a sentiment that I absolutely agree with. Even if the special green leaves don't really tie 100% into the theme, it could be an elaboration on the idea of this level feeling like somewhat of a fever dream. So where exactly am I going with all this? First off, I want to say, if nothing else, take away from this video to stay curious about the level. This video is mostly just meant to go over some Easter eggs and theorize about what they could mean, and honestly, I could be totally off. The level could have zero lore and I've just been rambling like MatPat for the past 6 minutes. At the very least, I would encourage people to look into this because I think it's a really interesting idea. And there is absolutely no way that I got even close to everything that's buried in this level, and of course there will be more to be discovered when the full level is released. That being said, I have a theory on what this level might be themed around. I think the story of this level revolves around some sort of induced dreamlike sequence. Things like the 420 funny plant could be a part of this, but it's also possible that these are just random red herrings, and are just meant to be trippy / funny in the case of specifically the 420 part. Symbolism of eyes and irises throughout the level, it does sort of point to some sort of more sinister piece to the lore, especially the angelic being towards the end of the level, which 100% has to do with the story because honestly, it's been the pretty main focus point of the entire level, or at least as it's shown in the preview. I don't think we've seen enough of the level to really get a good idea of what this means, but I think the common threads that I've been able to point out in this video at least give us a good starting point for trying to maybe figure out what this level is trying to say when it inevitably is fully showcased, which in the case I hope that a lot of people way smarter than me can figure out what's happening with the level. Again, everything I say in this video has a pretty decent chance of being just straight up wrong. In terms of theorizing what these common threads and symbols throughout the level are pointing to in terms of a theme or a story in the level. But what is very clear to me is that there is a lot of passion being put into this project in a way that I have pretty much never seen before in the Geometry community. And I don't just mean that in the traditional sense of, oh my god, this part is super unique and like super interesting and has this really cool gimmick, which is of course present throughout the level a lot, but there's even parts that are, in comparison, a fair bit more simple and very emotionally charged. At least to me, the part I'm showing on screen right now seems to be probably the most emotional part of the level, which would seem rather strange because in comparison to some of the crazy wacky shit in this level, it seems rather simple, but the song, vibe, and pacing of the gameplay point to a focus on the idea that this level is an agonizing hell to go through that will take a fuck ton of time. That level of range and creativity is not something that you see very often in Geometry Dash, partially just because we don't really have a game that allows for that too much in terms of the traditional sense of a Geometry Dash level. But I think platformer mode opens up so many new possibilities for these amazingly creative projects like this one, and I think Dawn will show us as a leading example of how this could be done. And on top of it all, this level is a platformer top 1. And the reason I think that's important is because Top 1s, whether they're in classic mode or platform mode, represent the community. They are known as some of the most famous, most important levels in the game, whether you like it or not. And I think this level perfectly showcases how creative we can get as a community in a way that is extremely unique and honestly commendable. So anyways, that's it for today's video. If you did enjoy, please remember to like and subscribe. I would really love to hear your guys' thoughts on the level and what all of these sort of common threads throughout the level could possibly mean. I do really hope this level starts to get more and more attention. It already has a fair amount of attention, but honestly, it's one of the most unique things I've seen done with the game, and I really hope that as a community we're able to sort of parse together the story if it isn't given to us outright. I also want to say thank you all so much for 30,000 subscribers. The growth and the support on the channel lately has been insane, and I cannot thank you guys enough. Also, thank you all for the support on the meme channel as well. It's really cool to see that other people also kind of like this idea for content. If you would like to, you can join my Discord server, link is in the description, you can ask me questions there and whatnot. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye!